What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And welcome to our show today. It is Tuesday, January 19th, 2021 here, getting into the week. Tomorrow, of course, is Inauguration Day. We'll be talking a little bit about that. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble. And as usual, I'm going to do news until I run out of news, at which point we will open up the phone lines for your comments, questions, opinions, and observations. Now, the mayor of Washington, D.C., Muriel Bowser, is actually asking Americans not to come to the city for the inauguration of Joe Biden tomorrow. Apparently, the Secret Service has begun its preparations early. The National Guard has had a very visible, heavy presence, and more security is being brought on in. Bowser has asked for and received a pre-disaster declaration for Washington, D.C. by Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf and President Trump himself. Now, the chief of the National Guard, Dan Hawkinson, issued a statement yesterday that there are 65,000 soldiers and airmen now on duty. He sort of implied they're all in and around Washington, D.C., and they're going to be protecting the nation's capital. I have to be very honest. I don't, unless somebody stages some kind of a riot, I'm not expecting there to be trouble in D.C. I mean, they could stage another riot at the Capitol building like they did back on the 6th. But outside of that, I don't think anybody even wants to really show up. Maybe they put those 65,000 people there, so at least there's some kind of an audience for Biden's inauguration here. All right, story coming on out of Global Research. They're calling it Operation Lipstick on a Pig, and they're asking if the violent insurrection at the Capitol on the 6th was basically a retread of the 9/11 false flag that we're all familiar with here. And they're out there saying the media could not move faster to support the impeachment of Donald Trump and place the responsibility for inciting a violent insurrection at his feet. Now, whether it was the progressive magazine The Nation, the conservative newspaper The Wall Street Journal, or the revolutionary socialist website WSWS, the conclusion about Trump was the same. He had organized and led an armed group of dangerous extremists to seize control of the Congress in order to subvert the Constitution, yada, 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 yada. So that's basically what they're doing. And we're hearing all this talk from the Southern District of New York. They're moving ahead with investigations of Donald Trump. They do not want him coming back in 2024. And the fastest way they can do that is to convict him of a felony. Because if he is guilty of a felony, he cannot run for public office again. So I'm expecting there's going to be some real dirty litigation. Story coming on out from shtfplan.com, basically saying that the storming of the Capitol building was a turning point in many regards, but what's important is what it signals to the global community. Now, at the end of World War II, America represented democracy, the United States' power and prestige, to invade other countries in the name of freedom and democracy hasn't really been challenged here. But what happened at the Capitol Hill incident is going to damage any future attempts at U.S. diplomacy to pressure countries to embrace Americanism, because they'll come back saying that American democracy is in itself broken, and they are absolutely right about that. Story coming on out of Your Destination Now. Retired General Barry McCaffrey is out there talking of fears of an insider attack on the Biden inaugural. Now, a lot of attention's been focused on the National Guard, and apparently 2 of them have already been told to leave D.C. For links to various militias. They are not going to be, they're going to be carrying rifles, but the ammo and magazines have been taken back. So lethal force is apparently off the table, at least for the moment here. But General McCaffrey is saying that he's worried about gun-carrying Republican congressmen being near the president. And this is just really getting out there. General Stanley McChrystal has gone over joining his name to the ranks of military-industrial complex professionals supporting Joe Biden, and he is apparently involved in deploying military-grade information warfare tools against Trump supporters. So I guess the Civil War has begun. It's virtual, and hopefully it will stay that way. But it does look like war's been declared on us. Katie Couric is out there saying that Trump supporters need to be deprogrammed. Like we're all the deplorables are brainwashed here. And apparently CNN ran a poll, and even after the events of January 6th, 75% of Republicans believe the 2020 election was stolen from President Donald Trump. The last poll I heard of Democrats had it at 30%. Now, interestingly enough, Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman is out there saying that you do not have the right to say the election was rigged, that is not protected free speech. Of course it is. But I mean, you can tell how scared they are that so many Americans understand what happened this last November. Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe is claiming that China interfered in the 2020 election, and that information was suppressed by the CIA management. Getting on out there. Now, we all know Mike Lindell. He's the MyPillow guy here, and he was recently threatened by Dominion Election Systems that they're going to sue him for talking about election fraud, and he has responded to that saying, I want Dominion to put up their lawsuit because we have 100% evidence that China and other countries used their machines to steal the election. And apparently the cancel culture is at work, because Bed Bath & Beyond and Kohl's are dropping his line of products. So, anyway. Apparently, Black Lives Matter shut down a Seattle highway. All the agitators were arrested and then let go. Apparently, there was a sign painted on one car saying, all lives splatter. And corporate media is forced to admit that the nationwide pro-Trump protest panic was a little overblown. Remember, they said on Sunday there was going to be, armed demonstrations in all 50 state capitals. It didn't happen. And basically, Troy Thompson, who's a spokesman for the Department of General Services, said it was a non-event, and we are glad it was. And but once again, they're out there propagandizing the people to demonize Trump and his supporters. Now, with the Sunday riot narrative having failed, apparently the FBI is out there trying to find other ways to create an anti-Trump narrative. And again, that's what the FBI does. They're the U.S. equivalent of the Gestapo here. Okay, now U.S. House member and former CIA analyst Elisa Slotkin is arguing that the single greatest national security threat right now is our internal division. I actually do agree with her about that. She's now talking about the threat of domestic terrorism and the polarization that threatens our democracy. So Biden is getting ready to roll out new domestic terrorism laws in the wake of the D.C. protests here. Now, you want to talk about hypocrisy, okay? Congress blocked Donald Trump's wall at every step of the way to close off the southern border. But walls are good, to surround the U.S. Capitol. And apparently they're going to put up a permanent fence to keep the lawmakers safe. And the public is not going to be allowed into the Capitol building anymore unless they are there on some kind of official business. So no more tourism. Over at the Council of Foreign Relations, They're afraid that American democracy, which translates as rule by unelected oligarchs, may be doomed by the populist forces that Trump's presidency has unleashed. And apparently there was a piece over the weekend from Yasha Munk titled, "After Trump, Is American Democracy Doomed by Populism?" And Munk whines about the Capitol protests, which he called riots, and lamented the appeal of populist authoritarianism. In other words, we the people are going to choose our own leaders now and not just be told who's running the show for the benefit of the billionaires. Now, Senator Lindsey Graham is pushing Senate Democrat leader Charles Schumer to not move forward with an impeachment hearing for President Trump, insisting it would be an unnecessary effort that would further split the country. I'm in agreement with that as well. In a letter to Schumer, the South Carolina senator said the impeachment potential should only be used to protect the nation from harm from an incumbent president and not to vindicate political complaints after a president has left office. And, again, Dershowitz is saying it's not even constitutional to impeach the president after he's left office. Now, Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi, without a shred of evidence, are out there now saying that Vladimir Putin ordered Donald Trump to launch the Capitol siege. And apparently Hillary Clinton... Pelosi sat down with Clinton for an interview on Clinton's podcast, You and Me Both, yesterday, and just came out with this total nonsense here. Okay. So anyway, Clinton is out there saying, I'd love to see his phone records. Well, good luck on that one here. All righty, Trump is taking a last stab at ridding Washington of entrenched deep state bureaucrats. He signed an executive order just yesterday prohibiting career bureaucrats, as opposed to presidential appointees, from authorizing and having the final word on new federal regulations. This has actually been a problem for quite a long time here. And the president chooses federal agency heads who exercise executive authority and implement the agenda. The American people, in electing the president, thereby have a role in choosing the individuals who govern them. However, some agencies have chosen to blur those lines of democratic accountability by allowing career officials to authorize, approve, and serve as the final word on regulations. So, anyway, Biden is going to visit Great Britain after becoming president here. He's going to be meeting with Boris Johnson. It will be his first international trip outside of North America as president. He's meeting with Boris Johnson to, quote, plot the destiny of the world. And apparently insiders in the Biden camp have pointed to the G7 meeting coming in June, which will be hosted by the UK and Cornwall as the likely time of the meeting. So Boris is a conservative, Joe's a moderate Democrat, so they may be able to come to terms. But I mean, look at the arrogance of that statement, plot the destiny of the world. That's very, very scary. All right, getting on to social media here. There's an article over at CNBC, no less, talking about Parler's deplatforming and how it shows the incredible power of cloud providers like Amazon. Now, I'm old-fashioned. I don't like cloud computing. I want to have a machine on my desk with enough storage for all my data. And I don't want to use the cloud. There are major problems with it. But according to this article, getting kicked off Amazon Web Services is rare, but it does have enormous consequences. And they're talking about when Amazon dropped Parler, a social network that gained traction from conservatives after Twitter banned Donald Trump and housed content that encouraged violence. Parler filed suit against Amazon in federal district court in an attempt to stop Amazon from suspending the account. Amazon pushed back, requesting the court deny Parler's motion. Now, Parler's website is coming back online. They're obviously with a new hosting company, and they're hoping by the end of the month it'll all be back the way it used to be. But the incident demonstrates the kind of power that Amazon wields almost uniquely because so many companies rely on it to deliver computing and data storage. Amazon controls 45% of the cloud infrastructure, more than any other company, according to estimates from technology research company Gartner. The app survived without being listed in Apple, Google's app stores, but getting sent away from the cloud was basically the death blow for Parler, but it is resurrecting even as we speak. Now, over at the Anti-Defamation League, they are hailing big tech censors. They're saying that CEOs are the fourth branch of government, and the ADL is applauding their censoring the internet in accordance with the demands of the Anti-Defamation League, according to ADL CEO Jonathan Greenblatt. So corporate social media is very, very Israel friendly, if you had not already guessed that. And they're going after all the alternatives. This is monopolistic behavior. It's trust behavior. There is a lobbying group that is suing Apple to get the free speech messaging platform Telegram removed from the App Store, claiming that it allows extremists to spread hate speech. And Telegram has seen a surge in users since Twitter and Facebook permanently suspended Trump. Last week, the service gained more than 25 million new users in just 72 hours, taking the total number of users to over 500 million. Now, the platform provides a service that believes in free speech and a strong privacy ethic, often polarizing itself from the likes of Facebook-owned WhatsApp and Microsoft-owned Skype. Now, amid calls for the platform to be restricted, lobby group the Coalition for a Safer Web has called for it to be completely deleted from all the big tech app stores. In particular, the group has filed a lawsuit against Apple, alleging that it failed to hold Telegram accountable for violating their terms of service. So, the hammer's coming down. They don't want you thinking or talking or listening to anything that is not the official narrative, whether it's the stolen 2020 election, the safety of vaccines, human-caused global warming, or the necessity for yet another bloody war. They're silencing the voice of the people. This flies right in the face of the First Amendment here. Now, apparently, over the weekend, Trump administration officials and top conservatives gathered in Las Vegas to discuss issues including woke tech and restoring law. Apparently, the tone was very critical. And they were very much in favor of some type of intervention to return protection of free speech to corporate social media. And it's absolutely important that that be done, or it's equally important that we support and protect the new up-and-coming free speech platforms, who are obviously under attack here. Getting into some other political news here, Mike Huckabee says that Kamala Harris could be impeached given the standard used against Trump. And basically, the reasoning behind the House of Representatives' second impeachment would also apply to Kamala Harris, and she should face the same punishment, okay? Now, we did a little flashback here where Kamala Harris openly endorsed and funded bail for seditious insurrectionists, riots, and laughingly promoted solidarity with violent 2020 rioters who killed dozens, causing billions of dollars in damage. Now, here's an interesting little revelation about what's coming. Mike Pompeo, despite being the worst Secretary of State ever, wants to be the flag bearer for Trumpism in the 2024 election. So Trump is going to run again unless they can stick him with a felony or something else happens. But if we don't clean up that election fraud mess, Trump doesn't stand a chance. It's going to be Democrat from now until the sun swallows the earth. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Now
Welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly nudge and reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network needs your continued support if we're to go on fighting for freedom of speech, freedom of ideas, freedom of thought against this very dystopian tyranny which looms over us right now. You know, the only way we're going to get the big money out of politics is for the little money to unite together in the common cause of restoring our republic. So once again, a reminder, the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. And of course, all of this information is at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. And the network thanks you. Alrighty, let's see. No, I did not. Apparently, we have T-shirts for a $100 donation. I'm just now getting this information from our control room. They have to mail in or call in and leave the address and size. So if you want an RBN T-shirt, you know, go ahead and call the number again. Biden has just arrived at Joint Base Andrews for the inauguration tomorrow, and apparently Donald Trump taped his farewell address. And that will be airing very, very soon. Trump is going to be flying out of D.C. Before Biden is sworn in, and in that way he gets to take one last ride on Air Force One. All right, getting into some other news here. Talk about a weird story here. Over in Baltimore, Dante Barksdale, who's an anti-gun violence activist, and he worked as the director of Baltimore's Safe Streets program, is dead after being shot in the head. And apparently Safe Streets tries to mediate disputes in the hopes of de-escalating conflicts. Obviously didn't do a very good job this time. So let's talk about COVID-19. It's still out there and it's still a problem. Apparently up in Seattle, they have decided that fire department paramedics will be going door to door starting on Thursday to vaccinate residents of adult family homes throughout the city. And the city of Seattle approved late last week as a distributor of COVID-19 vaccine. Mayor Jenny Durkin announced, and the city refers to anyone employed and currently accepting a paycheck from the city government of Seattle. So the vaccines are now mandatory for employment in Seattle, and the propaganda is nonstop. No travel without the vaccine. Okay, over in Europe, the Dutch government, the Dutch police rather, blasted an anti-lockdown protest with water cannon. Charged them on horseback and attacked them with dogs. And apparently, this was a banned protest, and it took place near the famous museums in Amsterdam, like the Van Gogh Museum and the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. And apparently, the excuse for the crackdown was the people were not practicing social distancing, and very few of the people wore masks, which are not mandatory, but they were still saying that was a reason. Germany is going to introduce tougher restrictions in the pandemic battle. They're going to extend its nationwide lockdown until the end of the month and introduce new, tougher restrictions in a bid to get control of surging coronavirus infections. And the new rules are currently being discussed by Chancellor Merkel and the leaders of Germany's 16 federal states. And it will, for the first time, ban non-essential travel for residents of hard-hit areas all over Germany. Now, somebody came up with a really good idea. One of the reasons the vaccine rollout is so slow is because the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines have to be kept at such a cold temperature, minus 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, over in Italy, there's an aircraft company, Tecnam, and they took one of their 11-seater planes, took the seats out, and converted it into a flying freezer that can transport 115,000 doses of vaccine and keep it at 122 degrees below zero Fahrenheit while in flight. So they're going to be able to start getting larger shipments and deliveries of the vaccine. Now, we've been talking about this woman who suffered convulsions after taking the Pfizer jab. Reported, I think it was just yesterday, she was getting worse. Apparently, she is now being screened for permanent neurological damage. And according to her son, she's getting worse every day. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. And right now, they are playing the tape of Trump's farewell speech, and so far it's just he's thanking everybody, and now he's talking about the protest back on the 6th. Not quite up to Eisenhower, I'm afraid, but we'll see what he says for the rest of the speech here. All right, getting on back to the news of COVID. Apparently over in Japan, as the coronavirus second wave has hit, suicides have jumped 16%. This was measured from July to October of last year compared to the same period the previous year. And apparently the 3-month interval coincided with Japan's second wave of coronavirus outbreaks. Now, you need to remember, in Japan, suicide is considerably more acceptable than it is here, pardon me, in the United States. In fact, in Japan, life insurance will actually pay off if you commit suicide, which does not happen here. Now, apparently, an alleged cache of email exchanges between EU officials and the European Medicines Agency show that the drug regulator was uncomfortable about fast-tracking approval for the Pfizer and Moderna COVID vaccines. And apparently, the European Medicines Agency claimed the contents of the messages, which were obtained by hackers and published on the dark web, were tampered with in order to undermine confidence in the drugs without providing further details. Anyway, getting away from COVID, over at Bayer, they're trying to wrap up all of the lawsuits regarding Roundup and glyphosate. And apparently 7 months after Bayer announced plans for a sweeping settlement of the Roundup cancer litigation, the German owner of Monsanto continues to work to settle tens of thousands of claims brought by people suffering from cancer they say was caused by Monsanto's weed-killing products. On Wednesday, one more case appeared to find closure, although the plaintiff did not live to see it. Lawyers for Jamie Alvarez Calderon agreed earlier this week to a settlement offered by Bayer after U.S. District Judge Vince Cabrera on Monday denied summary judgment in favor of Monsanto, allowing the case to move closer to a trial. Okay. Now, the settlement will go to Alvarez's 4 sons because their 65-year-old father, who was a winery worker in Napa County, died just over a year ago from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which has been linked to the use of glyphosate and exposure to glyphosate. All right, Donald Trump has proclaimed January 22nd, this coming Friday, as National Sanctity of Human Life Day. And, of course, this comes out of his pro-life views, and he's officially proclaimed Friday as National Sanctity of Human Life Day. The day also marks the 48th anniversary of the Roe versus Wade ruling by the Supreme Court, which legalized abortion nationwide. Since that decision, more than 62 million Americans have been killed by abortion, according to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. All right, let's get into the international news now. Apparently, according to the news sources, there were explosions reported south of Baghdad in the Iraq town of Jerf al-Sakar overnight on Monday in what are suspected to be U.S. airstrikes, although nothing has been confirmed. 9 people died in the incident, according to Arab news outlets. Sources close to Iraq's Popular Mobilization Forces, a group of mostly Shia state-sponsored militias, told Iran's press TV the attacks were carried out by F-16 warplanes and drones. Press TV also said the location of the alleged airstrikes was where PMF forces and Kataib Hezbollah used to be stationed, although they said the attacks targeted and killed members of Iraq's regular army. Although there was speculation that the U.S. is responsible, a senior Pentagon official told Fox News reporter Jennifer Griffin there were no strikes on Iraq on Monday. And if you believe that, I have some of Saddam's nuclear weapons to sell you. Alrighty, over at the New York Times, and I need to back up and give you the backstory here. Israel's leading human rights group, B'Tselem, declared for the first time Israel is an apartheid regime, which was an announcement that really didn't surprise too many people. But the fact that it was being openly announced, of course, upset Israel. So over at the New York Times, they basically, they're ignoring the story, and you know, they're vocal about opposing the BDS campaign, but they definitely do not want, so far, don't want to carry the story here. Now, probably a lot of you have heard of Canary Mission. This is a website that lists the enemies of Israel. And apparently a lot of people use this website as a resource to basically professionally destroy people, you know, who are opposed to Israel's policies, especially with regard to the right of Palestinians. And Canary Mission features a list of individual scholars, activists, professors, and others work who opposes the Israeli political position. So it's part of the cancel culture here. Meanwhile, leaders of major Israel advocacy groups in the U.S. are calling on the incoming Biden administration to further suppress Palestinian rights activism on college campuses. Now, I remember when I went to college, that's where you got exposed to all different points of view, so you could make up your mind what you were going to be when you graduated here. But apparently, the Israel lobby sent a letter on the 12th of January. They make no mention of the event 6 days prior regarding the Capitol building. And tried to claim that anti-Semitism was behind the attack on the Capitol building. Over in Saudi Arabia, 5 people who committed crimes in Saudi Arabia as minors have yet to have their death sentences revoked, according to 2 rights groups, 9 months after the kingdom's Human Rights Commission announced an end to capital punishment for juvenile offenders. Now, the statement did not specify a timeline, but the rights groups are saying, you know, should be now. Russia has now officially withdrawn from the Open Skies Treaty following the United States withdrawal from the Open Skies Treaty. And the reason is very simple, because Russia doesn't want the United States NATO allies flying over their territory and spying on behalf of the United States. Again, things are heading toward war. Okay. Secretary Mike Pompeo's announcement that the United States was lifting all self-imposed limitations on U.S. official contacts with Taiwan's government may have created an immediate foreign policy crisis for Joe Biden. And it's a real mess over there, and I guess this is Trump's farewell gift to Joe Biden. Meanwhile, the United States has completely withdrawn its last troops from Somalia. This was announced by U.S. Africa Command, And they're talking about the troops are being repositioned ahead of the deadline in a presidential directive last December, ordering the troop removal by mid-January. Well, we're just a few days past mid-January. Meanwhile, the Pentagon is beginning the process of purging Confederate names from military bases and other property. This is to satisfy a congressional directive that is included in the 2021 Defense Policy Bill that will result in the renaming of at least 10 Army bases and possibly 2 Navy ships that honor heroes of the Confederacy. So our history is getting erased. Now, there is something going on over at Fort Bliss, and I know they've got a new commander, but it's weird. There is a soldier, 27 years old, who reportedly committed suicide before 2 other officers were killed in separate traffic accidents, and 2 weeks after a female soldier died having made a sexual assault allegation. So I don't know. It's just too coincidental for me. All right, let's talk about the economic news here. Direct deposits of the new $1,200 stimulus checks will start arriving Wednesday, with banks alerted tonight which accounts will be receiving these transfers to. Paper checks for people who don't have bank accounts are still weeks away. And notice how the money has come down. Biden was talking 2,000, then it was going to be 1,400, so that with the 600 you already got, it was 2,000. Now it's down to 1,200, so they're already reneging on the deal here. And Democrats are already suggesting more checks will be needed to keep people afloat. Okay, what we need is a revitalized manufacturing economy that provides good-paying jobs. That's what's going to get this nation going again. All righty, now Democrats have the legislative path to push through the $1.9 trillion American Rescue and Recovery Plan through the back door if they really wanted to. It's called a budget reconciliation. Now, this is the mechanism that allows Democrats to vote on the plan, which will ease their path and relieve them from having to gain the support of at least 10 Republicans in order to reach the 61 total yes votes needed. Okay, and Biden presented the plan in a way that aims to unite the country by hoping that Republican senators agree to it, but $1.9 trillion is a huge, huge sum. Now, Republicans can't just abandon all logic and agree to this stimulus plan in the name of uniting the country. The markets, seeing through Biden's weakness, are not happy with the delays that are projected with this plan. Meanwhile, we all know about hideous government waste, and here's a good example. Biden has already announced that he is going to cancel the permit for the Keystone XL pipeline projects as one of his first acts in office. May even be the first day, Thursday. And interestingly enough, they've already spent $9 billion building what currently exists of that pipeline. Talk about a huge, huge waste. Okay, Max Kaiser has an article over at Russia Today, and apparently they're looking at the lockdown carnage in the world of small businesses. Max Kaiser is saying we're back to medievalism, and he points out that if you give the worst amongst us the money printer so they could just print untold sums without restraint, then it's like, imagine if Charles Manson was running the central bank uninterrupted for 20 years. And so he's basically saying that the U.S. Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, is the serial killer of small businesses. And we're seeing so many small businesses go under right now. Up in San Francisco, they're calling it Texodus. And the Texodus and the unwind of office hogging sink the office market. Sublease explodes, leasing freezes up, rents are dropping. And Oracle has announced last month it's going to move its corporate headquarters from Redwood City in Silicon Valley to its campus in Austin, Texas. And they put up their 17-story office tower in San Jose up for sale. And Apparently, the Texodus has now put 4 of the 5 floors it leases in San Francisco on the sublease market. So, bad things up there. Even the director of Biden's National Economic Council is admitting the economy is spiraling downward, and we have seen that coming for a long time. Meanwhile, Twitter shares continue to fall even more following the Trump ban. And last week, CNBC analyst Jim Cramer warned that Twitter stock could slide even further because of Trump's ban. Well, it's not just the fact that they banned Trump. It's the fact that everybody all of a sudden realized they don't support freedom of speech, and that if you say the wrong thing, you could have your account locked or terminated. And who wants to do business with a service like that? And that's why Gab is taking off. Parler is making a comeback, and along with the Telegram and Signal. The old corporate social media is being abandoned because they don't support one of our most basic fundamental rights, which is freedom of speech. Another article, this one coming out of American Wealth Max, saying that what is needed right now is not a federal minimum wage increase. Workers just need more jobs. And, because raising the minimum wage is going to eliminate available work. Now, I'd like to see everybody suitably compensated for what they do. But the hard reality for small businesses, especially with the COVID pandemic, is if the minimum wage is raised, they're going to start firing people. And that's not a solution here. Another article over here on investment research dynamics. 2020 was an interesting year, to say the least. One aspect of the markets that is not mentioned in the corporate media is that gold turned in its best year since 2010. Skepticism with regard to the durability of the rally in gold and silver imposed restraint on the mining stocks, as the stock segment of the 2020 precious metals rally lagged the returns on gold and silver. Always a good idea to have some gold and silver. Now, in this coronavirus crisis, China is making out very well because they have got a major plastics industry. And they are, in fact, dominant in all things plastic. And a lot of plastic is used up in medical equipment. Everybody around the world has to go to Chinese companies to get their supply. And the pandemic has helped the petrochemicals industry make up for losses in oil and gas demand because plastics are tied to the oil industry. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. Back with more news after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about the economic news, and apparently Tesla has released a video of its new tabless battery and Roadrunner production line. And Elon Musk shared the video saying the casting machine will make full-size cars in the same way toy cars are made. So they're calling it the Hot Wheels production line. And over at Gab, Elon Musk is talking about running for president in 2024. Getting into the world of immigration here, over in London, apparently there was a huge melee with up to 40 males who were fighting a street battle with swords, knives, and broken bottles. This was despite England's draconian anti-coronavirus lockdown. The Metropolitan Police officers covering Ealing reported on social media they had responded to a large fight in Southall involving up to 40 males fighting with swords and bottles, managing to chase 2 from the scene and detain them after they were identified as having carried swords during the fight. They were arrested for violent disorder and affray, but as yet, there's no word on whether any of the remaining 38 or so have since been apprehended. Okay. Now, over in Arizona, they are considering a bill to make Arizona a Second Amendment sanctuary state. The bill will ban all state aid in federal anti-gun activity. and apparently they're going to keep state resources from assisting in any federal activity they consider contrary to the Second Amendment. And apparently some other states like Alaska, Idaho, Kansas, and Wyoming have already passed similar measures. So there's going to be a fight over the guns here. Over in Southern California, apparently they're dealing with more wildfires. And apparently they're elevating the fire risk for Southern California again this week. And they're looking at utility companies to cut power to more than 280,000 homes and businesses to prevent wildfires this week. Apparently, Southern California's utility companies have not been maintaining the power lines, and they're apparently very fragile. We know that some of these wildfires they're dealing with were started with broken wires coming on down and pouring the electricity into the ground here. So Edison International, Southern California Edison, tweeted a warning Sunday that strong winds and unseasonably dry weather are bringing the risk of wind-driven wildfires to some areas of Southern California and may prompt public safety power shutoffs. Now, a big part of the problem is the land has not been properly managed. Now, the liberal agenda was to let it go back to nature and let it go wild, but, you know, nature has fires. Wild areas have fires, and I think they just wanted to make sure that the money was available for various other liberal agendas and not being spent on the forests here. Okay, apparently, we got to take a break here for station identification. We're going to open the phone lines, area code 512-248-8252, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2, the phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252. I got a couple of stories I want to get through before I start taking phone calls. The first story is about Thomas Jefferson High School in Virginia. It is considered the top performing public school in the entire nation. And it offers a college preparatory program emphasizing the sciences, mathematics, and technology to children aged 14 to 18. You know, it's highly competitive, and until recently, it used an admissions test to choose pupils. But now Black Lives Matter campaigners are out there saying that, no, you've got to have diversity, and you've got to scrap the entrance exams here because those are racist. Now, apparently, over in Great Britain, Corinne Fowler, who's the professor of post-colonial literature at the University of Leicester, basically said that gardening is racist. Seriously, that's it. And she's out there saying that knowledge about gardens and plants, in particular botany, has had deep colonial resonances. Okay. And finally, one more story here. Reverend Michael Eric Dyson, who preaches at the National Cathedral. His latest message is American exceptionalism is really white supremacy. They're just out there. Absolutely out there. All right, we're going to take a phone call now. Miles in Tennessee, welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Mike, I'd like to ask you your opinion of something, if that's okay. So he's your peer or competitor or whatever word you want to use. We all know him, Alex Jones of InfoWars. Yes. And after what happened on the 6th, I'm more than ever considering that he might be a red herring of sorts or controlled opposition. I don't know if I'm wearing my tinfoil hat on this, and I just want to know what your opinion of the guy is. Is he sensationalist? Is he out for the money? Do you have a personal opinion of if he's worth listening to these days?
Well, I don't listen to him myself since we had a little bit of an acrimonious breakup some years ago. Certainly he wants to make money. We all do. Certainly he's sensationalist because that builds the audience. But I noticed, or I was informed that as of today, he's sort of backed off this whole Storm Washington, D.C. thing, and he was telling his listeners not to do anything tomorrow.
Great. Yeah, I've kind of distanced myself from him too because it just, it doesn't seem healthy, and I could use the word irresponsible.
Okay.
To put those kinds of feelings out there, and I just don't think it's healthy, and that's pretty much all I had to say.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call, Miles. The lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. Getting on back to the news, let's talk a little bit about computers here. This is a story coming out of Electronic Intifada, and apparently there is this company in Israel. It's a spy firm, NSO Group. Their business is producing malware. And apparently their latest creation can infect a computer or a cell phone without having to click on anything. Just by receiving the message or the email, it can infect your phone. And apparently suspected government agents are using malware produced by NSO Group to hack into the phones of 36 journalists, producers, anchors, and executives at Al Jazeera, and the phone of a journalist at the London-based Al Arabi between last July and August. So anyway, boy, the phone lines are filling on up here. Let's go to Dan in Washington. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey. Oh, thanks. Well, I wanted to say about the minimum wage, but Alex Jones as well. But this whole thing about, I remember Bill O'Reilly debating this minimum wage raise, 12 years ago with Obama?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, and I think at the time it was $10-12 an hour. Now, and, you know, they were talking about adjusting it for inflation. Now, if they did that, the minimum wage would probably be $16-17 an hour. So it's just this idea that raising the minimum wage costs jobs it's been a libertarian talking point for 40 years, and it's just not true. It's never been true.
Well, I don't know. We seem to have massive unemployment, and I think, the reason that the workers are struggling and they should be getting minimum wage increases, it's because we live in a country where the executives at corporations are just making money hand over fist. Now, over in, for example, Japan, if you look at the way companies are set up there, management is very small. And their pay is, only a little bit more than that of the ordinary worker. But here in the United States, I mean, we've got CEOs who are making more in one day than their workers make in an entire year.
Well, yeah, that's why you have to have regulations like the minimum wage and things like tariffs. So it's again, that's why the whole Republican libertarian philosophy is just a scam. It's just, obviously that's the case. Greed is always going to be there, and the corporation is there to make profits. So that's why you have things like a minimum wage or rules to, do that. So that was my point there. I've just never seen it cost jobs. I remember the getting in the debate in like 1995 with the guy, and I think it was going from $4 to $6 or something, and it just, he said the same thing, and it's like, no, they never did. So, yeah, if you raise it to way above the average rate of inflation, say like $50 an hour, would cause jobs. But anyway, on Alex Jones, Stratfor.
Yeah.
When I used to listen to Alex Jones, he used to say, the neo-Nazis say I work for Stratfor. It's an Israeli intelligence agency, and and the neo-Nazis say, all this stuff. But after listening to him for a while, and probably about the time you checked out when he didn't say anything about, like, Israel lobbying artillery shells into Gaza, and, like, I don't know how many, 50,000 people died or something. It was, like, a lot of, several thousand. He didn't really say anything, and I quit supporting him after he stabbed the people at Charlottesville in the back. He just said, I wouldn't stick up for them, and it's like, well, whether some of them are false flags or not, they had a right to. It's just free speech. So, after all that, I kind of think he works for Stratfor. Just like at the beginning, he used to say, I think, I don't know what you think about that, or.
Well, I remember
that might be true.
There's a YouTube video of Alex Jones, pledging his undying support for Israel. And it was shortly after that video came out that all of a sudden his fortunes improved.
Yeah, I've noticed that. And I can't. He's got so many protein powder commercials. I have a hard time thinking that many people are buying his protein powder or whatever. But anyway, that's what I was thinking of exactly about him as well as the other caller. Anyway, thanks for taking the call.
All right, you got it. Thank you for the phone call, Dan. And we're going to switch over to Joe in California. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Great show, Mike. Great show.
Thank you.
I can see the tourism ads right now, Mike. Come to London and watch a sword fight.
Yes.
The joys of multiculturalism. Mike, before I get to the reason why I called, I just want to speak directly to Tom in Florida.
Okay.
And I love Tom. He's great. He's great. And I love when you say, Tom. It's like every time you have to say that.
Yes.
He may be onto something. Tom in Florida, he's been seemingly obsessed with the landscaping business and how it's been taken over by the Latinos. I would urge Tom in Florida, start his own service.
Yes.
Have some other white guys join him and call it Tom's Anglo Landscaping. With the slogan, we're making landscaping great again, one lawn at a time.
I love it.
Mike, first, I love Dan in Washington. He's great, but he's badly misinformed. This whole minimum wage increase, I think it's another way to get rid of the small businesses. My father had a small business. These small businesses are not making money, Dan, hand over fist. They're struggling. And even in the best of times, their profits are quite marginal. So if I don't think maybe you have run a business, a small business, Dan, but I don't think I don't think you did, because if you had run a small business, you'd be better informed. And then, Mike, a couple things. This story about the MyPillow company and Bed Bath & Beyond. I was going to go today to Bed Bath & Beyond and make a big purchase. And I'm glad you advised us about that story. I will not go to Bed Bath & Beyond ever again. Two can play this game. If they want to boycott MyPillow, I'm going to boycott Bed Bath & Beyond.
Okay. Well, apparently,
they lost the purchase. I was going to spend at least $200 today, and I may go there and I may talk to the supervisor and tell he or she, you lost my sale because your idiotic corporate people, wherever they are, made this decision. So you lost my sale. I'm going to do that too.
Well, apparently Macy's has also severed ties with MyPillow, and they claim it's because
I'll
of
go there too, because they're right next to each other.
Yeah.
And Mike, did you hear about this pervert, the guy who was head of the Lincoln group, this anti-Trump Republican group, propositioning young men online?
Yep.
Boy, Trump, I'll give him this. He's got some really screwed up enemies.
I agree.
And finally, Mike, my last question to you, Ted Kaczynski. Do you think he was some sort of a kind of prophet? Because wasn't he warning us about this dystopian, technocratic, digital future we have now, mass surveillance, big tech, cancel culture? Was he some sort of prophet, Ted Kaczynski?
Well, to be very honest, anybody who was studying what was going on back then had a pretty clear idea where this was all headed, whether it was George Orwell or Ted Kaczynski or yours truly. We've been sounding the warning for a very long time, and, now it's here.
Okay. Oh, and lastly, I'm going to say this. Biden may be in danger from the deep state because he's damaged goods. He may be worth more dead to these people than alive. I mean, that would give them the justification for a gun grab if he's taken out. So don't overlook that. It might just happen in the next, who knows, in the next year. Could happen tomorrow. Who knows? But this guy's damaged goods. His whole family's damaged goods. His past ties with China. So you never know. They took out that that very unpopular politician in Russia and blamed it on Putin. The guy had about 2% popularity. I think it was Boris Nemtsov, if I'm not mistaken. So that's all. And I just want to tell Tom, we love you, Tom. Keep calling. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to switch over to Marco in Alabama. Hello, Marco. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I don't know where to begin. I mean, I don't know where, any of you guys out there, dude, can support the Republican Party after what's about to transpire. I mean, first and foremost, you see, dude, that everything is being taken from us. And you could either incrementally accept it, the whole frog in the boiling pot, or we could start coming to get solutions and, not beating up on each other, other callers. I mean, because we need each other now more than ever.
Yes.
And, one thing's for sure is that we are the masters of solutions. The conservative party, dude, or conservative people, dude, are the masters of coming up with solutions. We need a new party in this country. And anybody, dude, who votes for Republican, might as well vote for Democrats. Because, they're all traitors. You see what they did to our elected leader. They allowed the election, to be stolen from us. They glorified a panty raid, that pretty much, happened at the Capitol. I mean, I don't even consider that, dude, a riot or anything like that, because conservatives don't riot. And just to sit here and see, dude, all of this infiltration, how, right-wing groups, dude, are hanging out with left-wing groups, dude, just so that they can accelerate a civil war. I mean, it's just getting to the point where, we just need to decide, we need to do exactly what the Democrats did to Donald Trump, and that's to have our red states, just ignore Joe Biden. Just ignore him. And stop abiding by his laws. And if your governor or your mayor of your town or your sheriff or anything like that is just weak, you need to get rid of them. I mean, because our country is under attack, dude.
Yes, it is.
And anybody, dude, who sits there and thinks like, we're just going to wait this out and hunker down and 2024 is going to come. We have no candidates. We have nobody, dude, willing to sit here and do what Donald Trump did. We need somebody with limited resources so that they can't sit here and be beholden to anybody. And there's nobody, dude, that's in our realm, dude, at this point in time that is willing to sit here and risk. Donald Trump is going to be broke by the time, dude, that he leaves. I mean, they're going to sit there and take him for everything that he's got.
Yes.
And he's not going to have much of anything anymore. And we need to start emphasizing, land ownership, because we are going to need each other, because they're going to start saying, well, you're conservative, you can't rent, you're a conservative, you can't buy a home. You need to take your assets right now. I'm 33, just turned 34. And all of you boomers that are sitting there listening, all of you guys in your 60s, who are about to retire and all that stuff, you're going to have to give your money to your kids. I'm sorry. To sit there and give them, a future and give them the possibility of buying back America brick by brick, block by block, mile by mile, until we push these people out of our country. I mean, because this is what they're going to do to us. And you guys better wake up, because, dude, this isn't even funny anymore. I mean, to sit here and be a young man, in this country, and you want to know why, dude, some of these young kids, dude, go towards Antifa and communism and all that stuff? It's because they have nothing given to them. They have no future for them or anything like that. They've never been installed, the proper parenting, to sit here and teach these kids, dude, how to earn $1. And you guys were so soft. You guys were soft. You gave them everything because you guys worked hard. But now you're going to have to take the wealth, dude, that you guys have accumulated and not buy your bass boat or anything like that, dude, but to invest back into this country, because we need to push these people out.
Yes.
And all you guys, dude, ribbing on Tom in Florida, dude, Tom in Florida is principled because he understands, dude, what's going on, dude, in this country. All of you guys are having the wool taken over your eyes, man, in the grand scheme of things. These people are invaders. Invaders. Do you understand that?
Yes. Okay, I think Marco just hung up. So let's go to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. We were talking about Alex Jones before.
Yes.
I still listen to him. However, I also know the guy does tend to lie sometimes. And, in order to, especially when it comes to Trump, he tends to shield to the worst degree. Because you take, for instance, these vaccines.
Yes.
These are all funded by Trump. These are billions of taxpayers' dollars that he gave these scumbags. And they've come out with this poison now. And Trump, of course, keeps on bragging about it, which is bad enough. But Alex Jones said that Trump did put out a vaccine, but it's not as bad as it's not really, what do you call it, an mRNA vaccine.
Well,
it's a lie. It isn't that.
Johnson & Johnson's vaccine uses DNA.
Johnson & Johnson is not an RNA?
No, it uses DNA.
What is it? All right, but that's not the only one that Trump sponsored, right?
No, Trump, was pushing a lot of companies out there, and listen, I got to take a break for commercials here. Mark, stay on the line, and we will be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Mark in North Carolina, and Mark, if you could just sort of pick up where you left off.
Yeah, you say that the only vaccine that I know of that they've come out with that's not RNA, but now you say the one in Johnson is a DNA, but the only one that's not either of those is the Sputnik 5 in Russia.
Correct. That's a more traditional vaccine.
But by DNA, what would be the difference between that and the RNA? I mean, would they it still endangers your entire cell structure, isn't it?
Well, the reason Johnson & Johnson went with DNA is it's a more stable molecule. And the mRNA is very, very fragile. RNA is a very unstable molecule. That's why it has to be stored and shipped at 122 degrees below Fahrenheit. Otherwise, it starts mutating.
Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, it's not that I take either of them, okay? I wouldn't even take the Sputnik 5 vaccine, but if somebody had a gun to my head, instead I had to take any of these things, I would take the Sputnik 5 one because I don't believe it's either of those things, But Jones is, like I said, Jones is always letting Trump off the hook. He doesn't go after him properly, and Julian Assange. And that reminds me, what happened to these 100 people he's supposed to give pardons to again today? I haven't heard anything.
Have not heard, and I'm going to be very, very disappointed if there's no pardon for Assange and Snowden.
Don't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like I said, I've never been I was a Trump supporter in the beginning. I voted for him in 2016, but I've been very disappointed. I was off that train the first time he bombed Syria, which was a crime.
Yes.
And he's shown that he can't be relied on. He's just not. I don't think he's bright enough to. He was, to run as a populist, you have to be able to go into what he should have taken a job right away, running and gotten rid of all the dead wood and all the globalist. I agree. Obama appointees and everything else he had before, and the Bush appointees, instead of putting more of them in. That's all he would have had to do, but he didn't. He just fumbled and one thing you got to say about Obama. I mean, I couldn't stand the guy.
Yeah,
but I will give him credit. He went in there and he cleaned house. I think he replaced all the U.S. attorneys around the country.
Yes, he did.
He put the attorney general he could work with in Holder. I mean, Holder's a scumbag, but he was loyal to Obama and did his bit and protected Obama every bit of the way. So and the same thing even when he appointed what's her name, Lorraine. Her name,
sounds like Lorraine. I'm blanking on the name.
Yeah, but anyway, he covered his tracks. Trump didn't know how to do that. He put all the worst people in. He replaces an FBI director with an even worse or just as bad FBI director in Ray. He replaces, and then he replaces Sessions with a bum like Barr. Deep state as you could get, going right back to George the First.
Yes.
Bush the First. So, I mean, that's inexcusable. I know you got a guy there from Florida who wants to praise Trump and say all the most wonderful things about him, but let's be honest about it. He just wasn't. He just wasn't up to the task. Okay,
he was a tremendous disappointment. I still would have preferred him over Biden, though.
Oh, absolutely. But that's like saying, would you rather be hit by a Mack truck or by a train? I take my chances with a Mack truck, but it wouldn't be a very good thing either.
Okay.
That's the problem. So this is what we're. So now we're stuck with Biden.
The name you were trying to get was Loretta Lynch.
Loretta Lynch, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, we're stuck. So now look what we're stuck with.
Yes.
And it's going to be a miserable 4 years. I don't know what this guy is really going to do or try to do. He probably won't do too much on his own anyway, because I don't think he's even mentally capable of it anymore. I don't even know if he's physically capable of it anymore. And but whatever it is, it ain't going to be good for this country. It's not going to be good for us. And it's going
to be raging liberalism.
I don't know what he's going to do with the vaccines, whether he's going to either push them some more. I really can't see him pushing much more, because this is coming out now in mainstream media. I was talking to a girl at the store today. She was telling me at first she in order to go back to in order to go to college, they said she has to take the vaccine. So I told her, you see all the. Now she tells me today that she's seen a lot of this stuff now even coming out of mainstream media. But people having horrendous side effects,
yes,
including death, up to including death, and she's starting to realize. So this is even now starting to come out in mainstream media. It's now coming out in Europe also.
Yeah.
I think what he's going to do is I think he's going to use this to blame Trump for it. That's my opinion.
Oh, they're definitely going to blame Trump for this. They're definitely going to do that. Anyway, Mark, I need to let you go. We're going to take a break for commercials, more phone calls after these few words. Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go back to the phones to Lauren in Ohio. Lauren, thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind today? Lauren, are you there? Okay, I guess Lauren...
hello.
Oh, there you are. There you are.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Sorry.
You're on the air.
Hey, okay, so I'm just going to talk about whiny baby men. At this point, we are wasting our time. Boy, they got us distracted. We think about what they tell us to think about. Oh, we're so worried about lives, but not the aborted babies, but not the just regular disease, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, easily fixed, easily remedied, vitamin C, vitamin D, some cod liver oil, some zinc, detox regularly. Okay, it's not hard. They know how to do it right. They're not going to tell you because they're making their living from you.
Yes.
And now we're battling each other. I mean, what in the world are we thinking? And, as far as Trump, come on, man. He's just a man. He's a businessman at that.
Yes.
So it's, he wasn't paying attention to every little, minutia of politics. And I'll tell you what, I've been watching it for 25 years. And the only reason that I had time is because I'm a homeschooling mom, So I was here, radio on shortwave, listening to what was actually happening every day, which shaped my picture of the world because it's all based in actual things that actually happened, like the vaccine court where the lead witness for the government, Dr. Zimmerman, said these vaccines are causing autism for sure. And all they did was just dump his testimony, rewrite it, pay Hannah Polling's family off, and then he had to go to Robert Kennedy Jr. to try to get the information out. So what I'm saying is, this is our fault. We keep waiting for some hero to save us. You've got people who make money from your ignorance. They're not going to tell you because they make money from your ignorance. So this is up to you to get involved, to go and look the information up yourself, and to then spread that information and make sure you're spreading truth. And that means you got to stop complaining about how Trump didn't do everything right. Now, first off, he was given bad advice. You know, they kept recommending people. Every time they recommended people, I was like, oh, that's a bad guy. But I've been paying attention where he hasn't, and he's trusting the Republicans. He thought that was his team. I mean, what normal person? He's from business. In business, you're actually trying to get a job done. So there isn't a whole bunch of, you know, lying and deceiving and backbiting, not in his organization, because everybody gets to do what needs to be done, and everybody gets to claim the victory. There's pride in workmanship. It's old America. The new America, you got Democrats. They go in as broke, and they come out millionaires and billionaires with $10 million. How many houses does Obama have now? You know, the guy that in the racist America that 13% of black people elected to president. You know, come on, man. And I can't stand it anymore. So here's the deal. My fault, my fix. Obey God. Even if it's just the last 5 commandments. Okay, we really have to change what we're doing. Keep your money in your pocket. If you don't owe taxes, stop paying them. Hisadvocates.org. Statecitizen.org. And if you want to do Social Security and IRS, Weiss Paris, WEISS Paris.com. And all this is just legal. It's legally changing your status. Stop acting like a slave. They're assuming that you're the slave, and until you tell them you're not, they can proceed and you obey them. So all this screaming and, oh, they're coming for us. Who cares? Walk out of it. Come out of her, my people. And that's what I'm saying. The same thing with your children. Keep your children in your home or control their education. Hire somebody to teach them everything on the globe. You should know where it is if you want to bomb it or send soldiers to rob it or kill the people. Shouldn't you at least know where it is? You know, boycott big business and turn off the media. They tell us what to think about. And the other thing with regard to the COVID, please, Mycoplasma, the linking pathogen in neurosystemic diseases by Professor Donald Scott. Look it up. What you're going to find out is this is a bioweapon developed by the very people who are trying to, you know, the CDC. It's like they did a study from the CDC, and they checked people that wore masks versus people that didn't wear masks. They infected them with COVID, exposed them to COVID. The people that wore masks regularly, 70% infection rate. The people that didn't wear masks regularly, 3% infection rate. You know, they admit that the masks don't work. They admit, you know, the John Hopkins death rate numbers. They admit the death rate is down. So the question is, how do we have a population that's so numbed and dumbed that a disease that you have to test for to see if you have it, and 99% of the people survive, you should take a vaccine they're guessing, oh, maybe it'll work. And the thing is, they know it won't work. You can't make a vaccine against a virus. Okay, I'm a naturopathic doctor now, but I was a drug rep, and I sold third-generation IV cephalosporin antibiotics. I was trained in that field. And I'm telling you, a virus, you're supposed to get those. When you stop getting colds, that's when you're getting ready to die from cancer. Your body can no longer shake it off. The cold, the flu, is to get you to sneeze and cough and have diarrhea and throw up. And it clears your body of the toxins that are accumulating. And the viruses that are normally, they're always in your environment. You swim in them. They're inside you. They're outside you. It's a communication. And the thing is, you've got Bill Gates. He can't keep a virus off a computer. But you're going to let him put luciferase, the active ingredient in his tattoo for you. You're going to let him put a virus in your body to make your body produce proteins that it wouldn't normally make, and to increase its, basically the aggression, the cytokine storm is a result of all the white cells running to, you know, beat down the infective agents. The problem is you're the thing it's attacking now. What they're doing to you when you take you take that dose of vaccine, when you finally get exposed to a cold, that you're going to have a cytokine storm and die. And then they're going to say, oh, well, we've got a new disease sweeping through. No, they caused it. Yes. Because it's later, people won't pick up on the causality. And in that mycoplasma paper, mycoplasma causes everything that you're looking at in terms of long-term degenerative diseases: diabetes, MS, arthritis, cancer, Lou Gehrig's, all these things, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all of this is caused by pathogenic infection, and they add to your weakness because normally your body would be able to fight it off, but they poison your food, GMO food, MSG, NutraSweet. They poison your water, fluorine, chlorine. They poison your body directly with vaccines, heavy metals, mercury, aluminum, formaldehyde, foreign RNA and DNA to also reprogram your cells, and that's when your cells start going crazy. And when that tissue of someone else gets embedded in your, like, spine, now you've got transverse myelitis. All the people in Australia, they stopped the vaccine down there. Why? Because people were testing positive for AIDS.
Yes.
So that's part of this weapon. So we need to stop reacting. We need to stop, should we take the shot or shouldn't? No. Should we take vitamins like Dr. Fauci does? Like Dr. Sherry Rogers says, thepowerhour.com, go to any Friday between March 13th and the end of April, second hour. That woman is a medical doctor with 4 board specialties, and she's telling you it's a bioweapon. It's got AIDS, MERS, SARS, and Ebola, and there's one more on there. I just forgot what it is. And that the way to stop it from entering your cells, vitamin D, that's the door. And you vitamin C to detox your body. Cod liver oil, you have to have solid fatty acids around each cell. That's what your cells all have as a shield. And that's what they're attacking with the fake fats. And then remember this, last thing, and I'll shut up and get off. The cell phone radiation, what it does is it makes the blood-brain barrier permeable to metals, to viruses, to the infections that they're putting in your body, to the machinery. There's nanotech that they can turn on and off using the towers. But these studies were done, the Navy did the studies. They put dye in a mouse, and looked at where the dye went. Take the scan, look where the dye went. It didn't penetrate the blood-brain barrier. They exposed it to cell phone radiation. Zoom, it's all right through the blood-brain barrier. And that's what I'm saying. They're using multiple weapons platforms to attack you. So if you want to understand what they're doing, stopthecrime.net and take a look at the actual government documents. They say what they're doing. It's easy to defend yourself, detox your body regularly. It's easy to do with clay or charcoal or, take super silver, 40 parts per million or 30 parts per million. It kills the pathogens in the body. And then eat real nutrition. Man-made vitamins. I used to work for a company that made Baroka Plus. That's the brand. That's the prescription vitamins for for doctors. But they're made from petrochemical pharmaceuticals. From oil. So you got vitamin C from genetically engineered corn, mercury alloy processed, and Dr. Sherry Rogers talks about this a lot. She said it's like eating, having a mercury filling every day. That's how much sugar with mercury regular Americans are exposed to. And so your body is just dying under the weight of trying to detox all this. So that's the deal. That's what's going on. I just want people to know they do have power. And, let's stop whining and attacking each other. Alex Jones is not perfect, but by golly, I've watched that man for 20 years, and he's a man. I'd be proud to call that man my son. And I know what went on with you guys. You guys are men, buttheads, men. Hey, iron sharpens iron. You're both badass. I just appreciate you and Claire and all the work you've done. I was such a dingbat before I knew about any of this. So I'll let you go. I know there's other people that want to call, but
yes, there are.
Bless you, and you have a beautiful, beautiful day.
All right, same to you. Thank you very much for the information. We're going to switch over to Don in Arizona. Hello, Don. Thank you for waiting. What's on your mind today?
Hello, Mark.
Hi.
Yeah, you have so many people that say they got one more thing to say, then they say 5 things. That's okay.
Well, it's a bad habit to break.
You're talking about Texas. There's also Texas. They're going to vote. It's going to be on their ballot to secede from the United States.
Okay.
I don't know what's going to happen with that, but the fact that it's even going to be on the ballot in Alaska, I think, is thinking about it too.
Yes.
Now, other guy was talking about Kaczynski. I've never been able to read the stuff that he writes. It's, he just he throws out so many different, totally different historical anecdotes, and it doesn't really make sense. The book I got from him, he'll be talking about Ireland, and he'll be talking about India in 1600, and he'll be. It doesn't make any sense. But one thing I did think of, one thing I think about Kaczynski, I think he was a Zodiac killer also. And there's evidence, a couple of weeks ago, more evidence surfaced that because they finally solved the 340 code, one of the codes they've been trying to solve for 50 years, it was finally solved, and the fact that it really is a real code, it's similar to a code that was found in Kaczynski's cabin.
Okay.
I think to his diary. But the fact that it was actually a real code at all, and not just a fake code. It again points the finger at him because it had to be somebody that knew mathematics. It was a complicated code. It took them 50 years of the FBI gave up on it. Finally, some amateurs solved it.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, he's the strongest candidate. They never have tested his DNA against the DNA they have or his prints. So anyway, that's all I got to say, Mike. I'll let you go and get somebody else in. Thanks.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Mike in California. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, that lady was a little
intense.
Wow.
A little intense.
Yeah. You know, Alex Jones, really, 20 years, you call that guy your son? Alex Jones is a lunatic, and he never mentions Zionist power. He always makes some crazy thing up like, oh, the Chi-Coms are controlling the media. And they do control a little bit, but it's nothing compared to you-know-who. And he'll never say it. He's always he just makes excuses all the time for wacky theories and stuff. You know, how many times has Alex Jones talked about the dancing Israelis?
Yes. I mean, that's pretty well documented.
That was so good. Anyways, sorry to go off topic there, but okay. Do you believe in telling people hard truths, Mike?
Basically the art of being a rabble rouser is to understand what the rabble is ready to listen to and what they're not ready to listen to. If I've got a receptive audience, I'm going to give them the hard truth.
Okay, good, because I think that's a lot of people go back. They just go back into their comfort zone, and they think, oh, I've got a chance. We just got to vote. We just got to vote the right guys in power.
Mm-hmm.
But, listen to the phone calls of people calling in, the lady talking about, I don't know, 5G stuff, controlling you,
yes.
and all these horrible things the government's doing to you, right? So do you really think that this government, which really doesn't change foreign policy ever, no matter who you vote for, is going to expose themselves and leave this weak point on the Death Star, oh darn it, they just voted us out, I guess we've got to go home now and pack our stuff? That's never going to happen. And for a lot of people, they thought, oh well, Trump is saying he's going to drain the swamp and everything, and he didn't do anything.
No,
he's horrible. I don't care if you think he's a businessman or whatever, the guy sucks. And he had full control supposedly. I don't think he did, but he should have. If he was going to get JFK'd or whatever, he could have said something. He could still declassify a lot of stuff. Nothing stopping him from doing it. Jared Kushner is not in there physically restraining him and punching him in the shoulder, not letting him do stuff. He can do it, but he's just going to lose money. Or maybe they would JFK him or something. And you know what? As a president, in this dire time, you should be willing to take that risk and say, hey, it's more important than his family or his life, the 330 million Americans living under this Zionist system, and he'll never do it. And I would ask people that are stuck in that illusion, that don't want to hear the hard truth or something, when has voting Republican ever moved things socially to the right? I mean, has it ever in your lifetime? Maybe delayed.
I think people vote Republican when they get tired of the Democrats, but as this last election showed us, voting just doesn't matter anymore. And having perfected their vote theft mechanism, the Republicans are not ever going to get back into power again, because the Democrats are going to preserve that vote stealing machine. Anyway, Mike, got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercials. Back with the last segment of our show and another phone call after these two words. Welcome back to our show here. Last segment of our program today. We're going to go back to the phones to Ken in New York. Ken, thank you for waiting. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Mike. You know, after all that's happened, why would anybody want to vote for him again in 4 years? Nothing would change.
Well, you know, you're absolutely right. We didn't really know the measure of Donald Trump when he campaigned back in 2016. We certainly liked his message, but now we have the measure of the man as president, and it was a disappointment. It all depends on who the Democrats are going to put up in 2024, or if the Democrats can find some way to block Trump from even running in the first place.
I don't have any confidence that there will be a vote again after this. I mean,
you may be right.
It really looks like we're just. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said you may well be right, or voting will now become mandatory, as it is in countries where the citizens know the elections are rigged anyway.
Well, if somebody doesn't get off their lard rear end and do something tomorrow, I think it's going to be could be 100 years of Bolshevism.
Well, the country is very fragile right now, and Bolshevism didn't work for the Soviet Union very well in the long run. So we'll see what's going to happen. But again, you've got, basically half of America knows this last election was crooked. The number's probably even more than that, but probably a lot of people are staying silent out of some misguided feelings of patriotism, or they don't want to be embarrassed, or they don't want to be cancel cultured, or any of those other things. So they're just going to stay quiet. But they're probably thinking it as well.
Yes, or you don't want to be a target.
True.
Thank you, Mike. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much. And we're going to finish up our show with a little bit of science news here. Apparently, NASA's big rocket, the Space Launch System, had its first real test. It was supposed to run for 8 minutes, but about 50 seconds in, the Flight Control Center called out, we did get an MCF on engine 4, which means a major component failure with the fourth engine on the vehicle. And at a total about 67 seconds, the hot fire test ended. So a little bit of bad luck there. Now, Virgin Orbit just launched a rocket from a 747. They flew it up to around 30,000 feet and launched the rocket. Basically, it took off and it went into orbit. Now, drop launching from planes is not new. It's been, around for a long time. The SpaceX, I'm not SpaceX, Rutan Scalable Composites, their ships drop launch. Okay, I'm hearing the music. It's time for me to get out of here. And please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Oh, apparently Stuart Rhodes from Oath Keepers is taking the microphone for John today. And we'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.